I got all I want, and I got all I need, and I got everything. I got you and me. All I want.
Marriage is the best. Welcome to the Marriage is the Best Year in Review show, episode number 9, where we review everything that happened in 2024. First of all, this was the start. This is the year that the podcast started, obviously, 2024. And it was the start of something new. It felt so right to be here with you. Oh, and now, looking at our numbers, I feel in my heart the start of something new. So, disclaimer, we're going to be talking through some numbers now. And my wife tells me that numbers are stressful. So, if you don't want your blood pressure to rise, you may want to avoid the numbers discussion. But as of today, the podcast has garnered 427 episode listens, downloads, whatever you want to call them. That's right. Yeah, 427. 225 out of the U.S., 9 out of the United Kingdom, which, may surprise some of you. 6 out of, well, maybe 9 of you, but probably not. 6 out of Ireland. Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate that. 2 of them out of Russia. Thank you so much, Vladimir. I know that was hopefully helpful. 150 came from Spotify, which is awesome because I adore Spotify. I've been a faithful Spotifyer since like 2011. 42 from Google Chrome. 39 out of Apple Podcasts, which is interesting because Apple was the last one that we added. So that's great that some people are finding it on Apple. 11 combined. So this is a combination of Safari, Chromecast, Edge, iHeartRadio, and Opera, and then an unknown source. 1 out of an unknown source. So whoever you are, way to go. Primarily, the downloads have come around Monday afternoon and evening, which makes sense because we release on Monday morning at 5 a.m. That's when it's scheduled to release. That's not when I'm like pushing a button, but I'm just scheduling it for that time. And then Tuesday morning, afternoon, with lulls, mostly on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. So this is actually going to be a Thursday episode, so we'll see how that goes. We have released 8 different episodes this year, and a total of runtime of 380 minutes. That is 6 hours and 6 1/3 hour, or 22,800 seconds. In rank order, the episodes have been downloaded mostly just in order from 1 to 8. So I'm not going to tell you like 1 was 1, 2 was 2, but there were 2 exceptions. Number 4, which we go over our first year of marriage, actually was downloaded a little bit more than number 3, which is the episode on Thanksgiving. I'm not sure if that's like time of year or just more interest, but I would imagine it would be more interest. Episode 8, our most recent episode, which was just released on Monday, has been downloaded more than both episode 6 and 7, which have been out for 1 and 2 weeks. So that's kind of interesting. Way to go, episode 8. By percentage, over 50% of the downloads have been done in the first 2 episodes. And so, vast majority of the downloads total have come out of those first 2 episodes. The number 1 most downloaded episode is the number 1 episode, and the least downloaded episode was number 7, which is Blame, which was on Blame. Number 1 was downloaded 129 times, and the episode number 7 on Blame was downloaded 12, which is 2.8% of the total downloads. So anyways, these are numbers. Numbers are super fascinating to me. So I really enjoy looking at the numbers. Our longest episode ran for 2 hours and 11 minutes, which is 34% of the total runtime of the podcast. Those 2 hours and 11 minutes. I thought that was crazy. The 2 shortest episodes are tied at 19 minutes. So the short, snippy ones, and those are number 6 and 7, which are also the least downloaded. So, fun fact for you. Editing the podcast has accumulated about 10 hours, minus whatever it would take to do this one, which is probably not much. And so editing the podcast has actually taken about 60% more time than the actual running time of the podcast. And I didn't include writing because I don't do a whole lot of writing, and I don't know how I would add it up how much writing time there has been. I could venture a guess that I've written, I write more than I record, so I don't know. I have no idea how much time I've been writing. Moving on. Some of you may be wondering why Rebecca is not on more episodes, and I wanted to address that. The first and foremost is that podcasts are a passion of mine. I love listening to them. I love recording them. I enjoy editing them, and I engage with them almost on a daily basis. So I'm super passionate about podcasting, generally speaking, or podcasts, generally speaking. Becca has pretty much no engagement with podcasts in her day-to-day life. And she never has. So she doesn't listen to any podcasts. She doesn't have a favorite podcast. And she doesn't really enjoy recording them as much as I do because she's not as engaged in the culture or the love of it, I guess. So where recording a podcast gives me a lot of energy and kind of fires me up, most of the time it does the exact opposite for her. And, ultimately we do lead a pretty hectic and stressful life at times. And then at the end of the day, she's exhausted. And one of the last things on her mind is podcasting. If you didn't know, I absolutely adore my wife. And I understand we are wired completely differently, especially in this area. And so balancing those dynamics out has been a little bit challenging, but also, lots of grace and understanding for just the way that we're wired differently in that. So I don't know how often she will be on the podcast in 2025. But I can tell you that I will have her on as much as her energy allows and as much as my constant asking, at times daily asking, will kind of make that happen. The second reason we have less episodes together is because there are 4 lost episodes. The fabled lost episodes were recorded prior to our November launch date. And they were accidentally deleted by some sort of comedy of error. These episodes were lost. That they included the top 10 greatest challenges we have faced in our marriage, an episode recalling our 2nd year of marriage, the very first time we ever recorded on our equipment. So the first time that I plugged it all in and we sat down and we just kind of riffed and we kind of made fun of each other. We talked about what we're going to name our podcasts. I gave out some funky podcast names. We talked about, what sort of, what is that, intro music, what we would have. And yeah, it was really fun. It was really charming. It was really sweet, and it is lost and gone forever. And then the 4th one is actually an already re-recorded episode on 10 things we are thankful for, which is episode number 3. Reasons 3 and 4 of not having more of Becca's lovely voice included is the miscarriage that we suffered. I think that kind of took a lot of wind out of her sails generally, and then energy as well. And then the holidays being very draining. But if you have any questions for Becca, you could shoot me a text, leave me a voicemail, or send us an email. And I will be sure to relay those questions to her, and I can either answer those questions on a later episode, or I could use those questions, if they're specifically related to her, to actually try and convince her to record again. So if you want to hear her voice more, maybe send me a question that only she could answer. And that's one way that we could finagle her back into the podcast. This year we have covered a bunch of different topics. They include our intro, abuse, harm, hurt, appreciation, Thanksgiving, sustainability, our 1st year of marriage, how to move through the holidays, blame, and then finally we've had 2 guests, obviously my wife Becca, and then one other guest this year, 2024, which was Mr. Reverend Pastor Eric Lashbrook, and that was super fun. That was episode 8. We have earned exactly $0.00, which is good to be, basically to be expected. Makes a lot of sense. We have options to monetize, to put ads, or at least open up monetization on the distribution website that we use called Podbean, but I just don't like the idea. It doesn't feel right at this time to like try and do anything like that. Not to say that the podcast will never have ads on it, but for now, I'm very happy to just have something that is kind of pure and untainted by ads. And I was actually listening to a podcast the other day that is supposed to be, I don't know, uplifting and actually for kids. And it had like 6 or 7 ads throughout it, and it was unlistenable, like truly unlistenable. I will never listen to it again because it had so many ads, and it just wasn't that valuable to have to sit through that junk. So I understand the idea of monetizing. I get that that's a thing. I get that that's can be important, and sometimes it's somebody's livelihood, and that makes sense to me. But I don't know. It didn't feel right, and it doesn't feel right at this time. So we're not going to do it at this time. 2024. We didn't do it in 2024. No promises for 2025. But hopefully nothing like that other podcast. What will be coming in 2025? That's a really good question. Let's talk about that. We already have some interviews lined up to occur on the podcast in 2025 that I'm really excited for. We are potentially going to be opening up a Shopify store where you can buy merch and stuff. And I'm not expecting that to blow up or go crazy, but I'm actually really excited to design things and to release things and to have some fun messages, shirts or mugs or whatever we want to throw on there. So that is actually something I'm kind of excited for and looking forward to developing. We're going to continue to release podcasts every Monday morning unless something changes. At least, we're committed. I am committed to releasing a podcast every Monday morning in 2025. So that's my goal. Finally, we want to kind of thank everyone who's taken the time to listen. Thank you even more to those of you who have said something, told us that you listened, said something that you like, said something that you didn't like. We received some really phenomenal constructive criticism recently around the Christmas time. And it was really refreshing. It was refreshing to hear, hey, this was something that I noticed and I think that this would make it better. And that is genuinely really appreciated. So thank you. Thank you to those who said something. Thank you to those who have, let us know that you've listened, even to just an episode. It's been a huge encouragement and a blessing. So, and thank you to that one listener who sent us an email. We read that email on, I think, number 7, and we were really grateful to hear that the podcast had sparked some conversations and whatnot. So thank you so much for sending your email. We also want to thank you to anyone who has used this podcast as a springboard for conversations with their spouse. So if at any time you were inspired to have a conversation, to create a connection, to be a little bit more intentional, to connect a little bit more, to anyone who used this podcast in that way, we just want to thank you, because that is the heart of what we're doing. That's the heart of everything that we're about. Inspiring and connecting, inspiring you to connect with your spouse, to engage in more sustainable systems, to spend a little bit of time thinking about and considering more connection and hopefully that would, branch off into more fulfillment and more satisfaction. And if you felt any of those things, we want to encourage you forward in pursuing your spouse. So keep going, keep engaging in those conversations and hopefully continue to listen and use those things as a springboard and have the hard conversation. We want this to be a blessing to you and to your spouses and to maybe someone in your life that you think could benefit from working on their marriage and being intentional. So I hope that your pursuit of your spouse in 2025 is both relentless and endless. All right. So if you've made it this far, 15 minutes into this episode, I am going to actually ask something of you. I am always thinking of ideas for episodes. I have lists of episodes on my phone. I have lists of episodes on random sheets of paper, on a legal pad. I've got different journal articles that I am writing and different, things that I want to read and, things that I'm just adding to my list. However, I am just one person, and I actually want to hear from you. I want to hear anything that you think would be of benefit to you or your marriage. I want to hear about that. I want to hear if you have a question, if you have a suggestion, if you have something that you want us to cover or address, if you've got someone that you think would be interesting for us to interview or talk to someone about marriage or something related to marriage or dating, or even if you have something that you think that we should be reading, if there's something new or something old or something that you think would uplift us in our marriage that maybe has uplifted you in yours, feel free to send us something that you've read. And in that, we will continue to have content and continue to be able to kind of record and grow our own, record the podcast and then grow our own knowledge and understanding of marriage generally. So thank you again to everybody who has taken the time to listen and engage with us. And we look forward to having you continue to listen in the weeks to come. We hope that you had a really wonderful Christmas season and that you're looking forward to the new year. May 2025 bless you, and may it bless your marriage, and may your marriage grow and your foundation of your marriage grow and your sustainable systems grow and your intentionality grow and your satisfaction and intimacy grow in your marriage in this next coming year. Thanks, everybody.